All right, so are you ready to dive into some seriously cutting-edge AI research today? Like, imagine if you could have an AI that can not only watch a video and then, answer your questions about it, but also tell you if another AI's answer is good or bad?
And then it can even coach that AI to do better.
Yeah.
It's like having a robot teacher for a robot student.
It's pretty wild.
It is.
And this is the world we're stepping into because the research paper that you shared with me, Unified Reward Model for Multimodal Understanding and Generation, it kind of lays out a blueprint for this kind of AI.
It does.
It sounds super complex, though.
It is a very dense paper, but I think we can break it down.
Okay, go.
The key here is the idea of a unified reward model,
Okay.
which is basically an AI that wears multiple hats.
Okay, I love a good hat analogy.
Yeah, so one of its hats is a judge's hat.
Okay.
It can do something called pairwise ranking, which means it can compare two pieces of AI output, let's say two different captions, for the same image and decide which one is better, more aligned with what humans would prefer.
So it's like those reality TV cooking shows where they've got to taste the food and decide which one is better based on, taste, presentation, all that good stuff.
Exactly.
So it's doing that, but with AI-generated content.
Yeah, and what's cool is that it's not just picking a winner.
Right.
It can actually give each piece of content a score, like a grade.
Okay.
So you can see how it measures up against a standard.
Okay.
That's called pointwise scoring.
So it's judging both the relative quality and the
Yeah.
absolute quality.
That's right.
That's pretty impressive, but how does it learn to be such a good judge?
So they didn't send it to judge school,
Okay.
but they did give it a massive education.
Okay.
They trained this model on a data set with over 236,000 examples,
Wow.
covering tons of visual tasks,
Okay.
judging AI-created images and videos, assessing how well AI can answer questions about visual content, and even rating how well AI can follow instructions.
So 236,000 examples.
Yeah, it's a huge data set.
That's like the AI equivalent of binge watching every YouTube tutorial ever created. Yeah.
Pretty much.
No wonder it's so good.
Yeah, and it's all about learning from as much data as possible.
Okay, so you mentioned this model isn't just a judge, it's also a coach.
Yes,
How does that work?
that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
It's like this. The unified reward model analyzes a bunch of output from other AI models,
Okay.
like captions, answers to questions, or even generated images and videos. Then, using its ranking and scoring skills, it identifies the best and worst examples.
So it's basically saying, hey, AI student, look at these awesome examples and learn from them.
Yeah.
And maybe avoid doing whatever this other AI did over here.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that curated data, the good and the bad,
Right.
is then used to fine-tune the other AI models.
Oh, okay.
It's like having a personal trainer for your AI,
Yeah.
constantly nudging it towards better performance.
I can see why you're so excited about this. It's like we're taking AI education to a whole new level.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing there are still limitations, like this paper specifically focused on visual tasks.
Right.
Could this kind of unified reward model work for other types of AI, like language models or music generation? Could we have an AI that can tell if a song is good or bad?
That's a great question, and it's something researchers are definitely exploring.
Okay.
Could we have a unified reward model for language models,
Yeah.
judging how well they write different kinds of text?
Right.
Or for music generation, evaluating the quality and creativity of AI-composed pieces?
It's like we're talking about creating an AI Simon Cowell.
Kind of, yeah.
That's both exciting and a little terrifying. But before we go down that rabbit hole,
Yeah.
let's get back to the specifics of this research.
Okay.
The paper mentions that the researchers built their own large-scale data set to train unified reward. What was so special about this data set?
So most existing data sets for training AI are pretty specific.
Right.
Like, you might have a data set for training an AI to caption images,
Right.
but that's all it's good for.
Yeah.
The researchers realized there wasn't a data set out there that covered both visual understanding and generation in a comprehensive way.
Right.
So they had to build their own.
So they basically said, fine, we'll do it ourselves, and created this Frankenstein's monster of a data set.
Pretty much.
Okay.
They pulled from a variety of existing sources, like a benchmark called Evil Muse,
Okay.
which has human ratings for AI-generated images, and a project called Human Preference Dataset,
Okay.
where people voted on which of two AI-generated images they preferred.
So it's like they took all these different pieces of human feedback about what makes visual content good
Yes.
and stitched them together into one giant learning resource for unified reward.
Exactly.
Clever. But was it all smooth sailing, or did they run into any challenges building this data set?
Well, one of the things they mentioned
Yeah.
was that there wasn't as much data for video generation compared to the other tasks,
Okay.
but they thought the benefits of multitask learning would help make up for that.
Kind of like how learning a new language can sometimes make it easier to learn another one.
Yes,
You build up those core skills that can be applied across different areas.
exactly.
Okay.
So even though the video generation data was a bit sparse, they believed the model would still be able to learn effectively
Okay.
because it was also being exposed to all this other visual data.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But how did they actually go about training Unified Reward on this massive data set? Did they just throw all the data at it and hope for the best?
Not quite. They actually used a pretty clever approach.
Okay.
Instead of starting from scratch, they took a pre-trained large language model called Elevy,
Okay.
which already had strong visual understanding capabilities.
So it's like they gave the model a head start,
Yes.
building on existing knowledge instead of making it learn everything from scratch.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like teaching someone to be a film critic.
Okay.
You wouldn't start by teaching them the alphabet.
Right.
You'd start by assuming they already have a basic understanding of language and storytelling.
I love that analogy.
So they basically took Elevy,
Yeah.
which already knew a lot about visual content,
Right.
and fine-tuned it on this massive data set,
Yeah.
teaching it to predict both pairwise rankings and pointwise scores based on the different types of data.
So they weren't teaching it to see, they were teaching it to judge.
They're teaching it to judge.
Interesting.
And as we've discussed, they found that this multitask learning approach really paid off.
Okay.
The model performed best when it was learning from all of the tasks together.
It's like the model is saying, the more I learn, the better I get at everything.
Exactly.
Okay, but let's shift gears a bit and talk about how they actually used Unified Reward to improve other AI models.
Okay.
You mentioned this direct preference optimization process. Can you walk us through that in a bit more detail?
Sure. Remember how Unified Reward curates a collection of the best and worst AI outputs?
Yes.
That's the core of DPO.
Okay.
It's about using those examples to directly guide the training of other models.
So it's less about telling the model how to be good
Yes.
and more about showing it examples of what good looks like
Exactly.
a follow the leader approach to AI training.
It's a very data-driven approach.
Okay.
And they actually applied this DPO process in two different ways,
Okay.
depending on whether they were working with a generative model or an understanding model.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let me make sure I'm getting this. Generative models are like the artists of the AI world. They're creating new things like images, videos, even music.
Right.
Understanding models are more like the critics. They're analyzing existing content and trying to figure out what it means.
Yes.
Am I on the right track?
That's a great analogy.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is that DPO can be used to train both types of models.
Oh, okay.
It's like having a universal coaching method that works for both artists and critics.
That's really interesting. So how does this coaching actually work in practice?
Well, with a generative model, let's say an AI that creates images from text prompts, DPO works by having the Unified Reward model analyze a bunch of the AI's creations,
Okay.
identify the best and worst,
Mm-hmm.
and then use that data to nudge the generative model towards creating more of the good stuff.
So it's like saying, here's what a good image looks like based on the prompt you were given.
Yes.
Try to generate more images like this and fewer like that blurry mess over
That's precisely.
Okay.
And it's not just about overall quality.
Right.
The Unified Reward model can also be used to guide the AI towards generating content that's more aligned with the specific instructions it was given.
So the AI is learning to be more creative and more obedient at the same time.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. What about for understanding models? How does DPO help them level up?
So for understanding models, DPO is more about refining the model's ability to produce responses that are aligned with human preferences.
Okay.
Let's say you have an AI that's supposed to answer questions about a video. The Unified Reward model can look at a bunch of different answers generated by that AI and determine which ones are more accurate, informative, and relevant based on what humans would expect.
And then use that information to fine-tune the understanding model.
Right.
So it's more likely to give good answers in the future.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like training the AI to be a better student, essentially.
Yeah.
And just like with generative models, DPO can also be used to make sure the understanding model is paying attention to the specific instructions or constraints it's given.
So it's all about making the AI more reliable, more human aligned,
Yeah.
whether it's creating new content or analyzing existing content.
That's right.
This is some seriously impressive stuff. But did they actually see any real improvements when they used this DPO technique?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, did it actually make the AI better at what it does?
They ran a ton of experiments,
Yeah.
and the results were really promising. They found that using DPO with different types of AI models for image generation, video generation, understanding videos, and even answering questions about images led to significant improvements in performance.
So it's not just a cool concept, it actually works.
It actually works.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've laid a good foundation for understanding this research. Now I'm really curious to see this unified reward in action.
Me too. Let's dive into some specific examples. All right, so are you ready to see unified reward in action?
Oh, absolutely. Seeing is believing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So let's start with image generation.
Okay.
Remember we were talking about that benchmark pick score?
Yeah, the popularity contest.
Yes, exactly.
Or AI.
Based on a data set where people had to choose between AI-generated images based on a text prompt.
So we're seeing if the AI can generate images that humans actually like.
Right. So what they did was they took a state-of-the-art image generation model
Okay.
and fine-tuned it using DPO, guided by unified reward. And the results were really impressive. The fine-tuned model basically blew the original model out of the water on the Pixar benchmark.
So it's like unified reward was the AI's art coach helping it understand what humans think looks good.
Exactly. Yeah, it's providing that guidance based on human preferences.
Did they share any of the images?
They did.
I'd love to see like a before and after.
Yeah, so they showed some side-by-side comparisons of images generated by the original model.
Okay.
A model fine-tuned on a standard data set,
Okay.
and the model fine-tuned using DPO with unified reward.
Oh, okay. So like an epic AI art battle.
Yes. Yeah, it was really cool to see.
What kind of prompts did they use?
One example was a horse riding an astronaut.
Okay.
And the differences were pretty striking.
Okay.
So the original model created an image that was kind of bland.
Okay.
Just a horse and an astronaut standing next to each other. Not very creative.
It's like the AI missed the memo on how to make things fun and interesting.
Right. It lacked that sort of creativity and imagination. Yeah. What about the model fine-tuned on the standard data set?
Yeah. How did that one do?
It was slightly better.
Okay.
The horse and astronaut were at least interacting a bit, but it still felt like it lacked that spark of imagination.
Okay, so drumroll, please. What about the model guided by a unified reward?
Yes. So the image generated by the unified reward guided model was fantastic. It was this surreal and imaginative depiction of a horse riding an astronaut through space with stars and planets in the background. And you could really see that the AI understood the intended mood and the creativity.
Wow, that's quite a difference. So it really nailed the creativity of that prompt.
Yeah, it did.
Do you think it's like learning to understand human humor and imagination?
That's a really interesting question. And it's something that researchers are actively exploring.
Yeah.
It does seem like this model is going beyond just mimicking what it's seen in the data.
Right.
It's starting to synthesize those ideas and apply them in new and creative ways.
Okay. Color me impressed. Did they share any other examples of this AI art showdown?
They did.
Okay.
Another one that stood out was Darth Vader playing with a raccoon on Mars during sunset.
Okay, that's even better. I can already picture the hilarious possibility. How did the models handle that one?
So the original model, again, struggled with the creativity. It was a weird jumble of elements.
Okay.
You could kind of see Darth Vader and a raccoon.
Yeah.
But it didn't really make sense. The Martian sunset was missing entirely.
It's like the AI just threw a bunch of random ingredients in a blender and hoped for the best.
Exactly. So what about the model that was fine-tuned on that standard data set?
Yeah, that do any better?
There was some improvement there. You could see a hint of a Martian landscape.
Okay.
But it still lacked that sense of playfulness and humor.
All right, so let's see if unified reward can work its magic again.
Okay.
What about the model that it guided?
The unified reward guided model absolutely delivered. It was, this image actually showed Darth Vader playfully holding the raccoon up in the air.
Okay.
With a beautiful Martian sunset in the background.
Okay.
And it was really clear that the model understood the humor and whimsy of the prompt and translated that into a really engaging image.
Okay, that's amazing. So it sounds like Unified Reward is really helping these AI models tap into their creative potential.
Yes, absolutely.
Did they happen to have any examples for video generation? I'd love to see how this technology works with moving pictures.
Yes, they showed some really impressive improvements in video generation using a model called T2V Turbo.
Okay.
One of the prompts was a glowing dragon soaring through floating islands, leaving behind a trail of shimmering stardust.
Wow, that's an epic prompt. I'd watch that movie.
Yeah, right.
How did the different models handle that one?
So the original T2V Turbo model generated a video that, well, to put it nicely, left a lot to be desired.
Okay.
The dragon looked kind of clunky, the animation was choppy,
Yeah.
and it just didn't capture the grandeur of the scene.
So it was less Game of Thrones and more like a budget dragon from a 90s video game.
Yeah, exactly.
What about the baseline model? Did they have another model they were comparing it to?
Yes, so they had a model that they used as their baseline for comparison. Right. And it was better. The animation was smoother. The dragon had more detail, but it still felt somewhat generic, not as awe-inspiring as you'd imagine a glowing dragon soaring through floating islands to be.
All right, let's see if Unified Reward can bring this dragon to life.
All right, so the Unified Reward guided model generated a video that was absolutely breathtaking. The dragon was beautifully rendered, the animation was smooth and lifelike, and that shimmering stardust trail really added a touch of magic to the whole thing. It truly captured the epic scale and beauty of the prompt.
That's incredible. So Unified Reward's a game changer, not just for still images, but for video generation as well. It's like we're moving from those early clunky attempts at AI-generated video to something that's truly immersive and visually stunning.
I think that's a key takeaway here. We're moving beyond teaching AI to simply complete tasks. We're starting to see AI understand and even embody qualities like creativity, visual storytelling, and aesthetic appeal.
That's a pretty profound thought.
Yeah.
It's like we're giving AI a sense of what makes something truly captivating. But okay, let's shift gears for a bit and talk about how this technology can be used to improve AI's understanding of visual content.
Okay.
Not just its ability to create it.
Yeah.
You mentioned they saw some impressive results on benchmarks like MSRVTT and ShareGPT Video.
Right.
What were those benchmarks testing, and how did Unified Reward make a difference?
Yeah, so those benchmarks are all about testing how well an AI can watch a video and answer questions about it.
Okay.
So they use Unified Reward to guide the training of a large language model called a Lava video.
Okay.
Which is designed to do just that. Watch videos and answer questions.
Got it.
And the results were fantastic.
Okay, I'm ready to be amazed. What kind of improvements did they see?
Well, on the MSRVTT benchmark, which is a large data set of short videos, they found that using DPO with Unified Reward significantly improved the model's accuracy in answering questions about the videos. It was like the AI had suddenly learned to pay attention to details and understand what was happening in the video.
So not just getting lucky with random guesses anymore, it was actually demonstrating real understanding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just about getting more answers right.
Right.
The AI's answers were also more detailed and informative.
Okay.
Like it was able to pick up on nuances and context that was missing before.
That's impressive. What about the ShareGPT Video benchmark? You mentioned that one was particularly interesting.
Yeah, so ShareGPT Video is cool because it uses longer, more complex videos.
Okay.
More like the kind of stuff that we watch on streaming services. And again, they found that DPO with Unified Reward made a huge difference.
So it's not just good at understanding short clips, it can handle feature-length films as well.
It is.
That's a big step.
It is. It suggests that we're moving towards AI that can truly comprehend visual storytelling, not just process bits and pieces of information.
Did they share any specific examples of how the AI's understanding improved? Like, was it suddenly able to predict plot twists or analyze character development?
Well, maybe not that advanced, but they did highlight a cool example.
Okay.
Using a video of a cooking show.
Okay.
So the original LLove video model, when asked a question about a specific step in a recipe, gave a vague and kind of inaccurate answer. But after training with DPO and Unified Reward, it was able to give a much more precise and detailed answer.
So it's like it went from being a casual observer to a culinary expert.
Yes.
Able to follow the recipe and understand the nuances of each step.
Exactly. And that kind of improvement has huge potential for all sorts of applications. Think about AI that can help us learn new skills analyze security footage, or even provide real-time commentary on sporting events.
Okay, I'm officially convinced that Unified Reward is a game changer.
Yeah,
It's helping AI become more creative and more intelligent.
it is.
And that's a pretty exciting combination.
It is.
But I know there's another aspect of this research that you found particularly interesting. The comparison they did with something called Houdini-based direct preference optimization, or HowDPO for short.
Yes.
What's that all about?
So HoudDPO is another method for fine-tuning language models, but it uses a different approach for picking the best and worst AI outputs to guide the training process.
So it's like a different flavor of DPO, using a different recipe, but aiming for a similar outcome.
Right.
Better AI.
Better AI, exactly.
What did they find when they compared Unified Reward to this other method?
So they focused on the task of video understanding.
Okay.
Using the LLVA video model. They fine-tuned it using both Unified Reward Guided DPO and HowDPO.
Okay.
And then compared their performance.
Okay, let's get ready to rumble. Which method reigns supreme?
The results are pretty clear.
Okay.
Unified Reward consistently outperformed HowDPO across all the tests.
Wow, that's a pretty definitive victory for Unified Reward. What do you think accounts for that difference in performance? Why is Unified Reward so much better at coaching these AI models?
I think it comes back to that multitask learning aspect of Unified Reward.
Right.
Remember, HowDPO is specifically designed for language models,
Right.
whereas Unified Reward is learning from a much broader range of tasks,
Right.
including image generation and understanding.
So even though they were both being used to train an AI that understands videos,
Right.
the fact that Unified Reward had all this extra experience with different kinds of visual data gave it an edge.
Exactly. It seems like that broader visual knowledge base is helping it make more informed judgments about which answers are good and which ones need improvement.
It's like having a teacher who is not just an expert in their subject, but also has a wide range of other knowledge and experience to draw from.
Right.
They can make connections and provide insights that a more specialized teacher might miss.
That's a great analogy. And I think it highlights the potential of this multitask learning approach.
Yeah.
It's not just about teaching AI to do specific things. It's about helping AI develop a more holistic and adaptable understanding of the world.
Okay, I'm seeing more and more why you were so excited about this research.
Yes.
It's not just pushing the boundaries of what AI can do, it's changing the way we think about AI itself.
It is.
It's pretty mind-blowing. But before we get too carried away, maybe we should take a step back and talk about some of the potential challenges and limitations of this technology.
Okay.
Every breakthrough comes with a few caveats.
Right, absolutely. No technology is perfect, and this one is no exception.
Right.
So one of the key challenges is scalability.
Okay.
Training these large AI models requires a massive amount of data and computing power, which can be very expensive and energy intensive.
So it's not exactly something you can do on your home computer.
Not quite.
Okay. What about the data itself? Are there any limitations there?
Well, one thing that the researchers pointed out is that we need more balanced and diverse data sets.
Okay.
Remember how they mentioned the lack of data for video generation? That's just one example of the data gaps that still exist.
Yeah.
If we want to create AI that's truly representative of the real world,
Right.
we need to make sure it's learning from a wide range of sources.
So we need to feed these AI models a balanced diet of data, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
No junk food allowed. What about the AI itself? Are there any challenges in understanding how these models actually work?
Yeah, that's another big one.
Okay.
These AI models are becoming incredibly complex,
Yeah.
and it can be really difficult to understand why they make the decisions they do. It's like they're black boxes. We know what goes in and we know what comes out, but we don't always know what's happening inside.
That could be a problem, especially if we're going to rely on these AI systems to make important decisions. We need to be able to trust that they're making those decisions for the right reasons.
Exactly. And that's why there's a lot of work being done to make these AI models more transparent and interpretable.
Yeah.
So we can understand their reasoning and make sure they're aligned with our values.
Well, it sounds like there are some hurdles to overcome, but the potential benefits are enormous.
Oh, yeah.
It's exciting to see researchers tackling these challenges head on and pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI.
Definitely.
But I have to admit, I'm a bit curious about your own take on all of this.
Oh, okay.
You've been studying AI for years, and you've seen firsthand how rapidly this technology is evolving. What are your thoughts on the bigger picture? Where do you think this is all heading?
Well, you know, it feels like we're at this really interesting moment with AI. Like, we're on the verge of a huge shift in how we think about it and interact with it.
Yeah.
What's your perspective on that?
Well, I mean, as you said, you've been studying this for years.
Right.
You've seen how fast it's evolving.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the bigger picture?
I think you're absolutely right. There's a huge sense of change in the air. And we've been talking about all the cool things AI can do.
Yeah.
You know, create art, answer questions, even learn from its mistakes. But I think the most profound implication of all this is that it's pushing us toward a much more fundamental understanding of what intelligence even is.
Okay, now we're getting philosophical.
A little bit.
How is this research changing our understanding of intelligence?
Well, for a long time, we've thought about intelligence as a human-centric thing, you know, like it's something that only we can do. But as we build more and more sophisticated AI, I think we're realizing that intelligence might be a more universal concept, something that can exist in many different forms.
So instead of asking, can machines think like humans, we should be asking, what are the different ways machines can think?
Yes, exactly. And this research is a great example of that shift.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just teaching AI to mimic human behavior.
Right.
We're giving it the tools to develop its own ways of understanding and interacting with the world.
That's a pretty radical idea.
It is.
It's like we're moving from a human-centered view of intelligence to a more expansive, like multi-dimensional view.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that has huge implications for how to design and interact with AI in the future. You know,
Right.
we might start to see AI that surprises us with their creativity,
Yeah.
their problem-solving abilities, maybe even emotional intelligence.
That's both exciting and a little daunting.
It is.
It's like we're opening this Pandora's box of artificial intelligence.
Right.
And we don't know what's going to come out, but we know it's going to be transformative.
Yes, and I think that's why it's so important to have these conversations now.
Right.
While this is all still developing.
Right.
You know, we need to think about the values we want to embed in these systems, the safeguards we need to put in place,
Yeah.
and the role we want AI to play in our lives.
You know, it's interesting as we've been talking about all this.
Yeah.
The thing that keeps coming back to me is AI as a collaborator.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about building machines that can do things for us.
Yeah.
It's building machines that can work with us,
Yeah.
learn from us, maybe even inspire us.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the most exciting parts of this.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where AI is helping us solve problems,
Yeah.
generate new ideas, create art
Mm-hmm.
that pushes the boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah.
It's a world where AI isn't just a tool, but a partner
Right.
in discovery and creation.
That's a beautiful vision, but it also raises some interesting questions.
Sure.
If AI becomes more and more capable, how do we ensure that it remains beneficial to humanity?
Yeah.
How do we prevent it from becoming a threat?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right.
And there's no easy answer, but I think it comes down to a few key things.
Okay.
First, we have to be really intentional about the values we're putting into these systems.
Okay.
We have to make sure they're aligned with our own goals for the future.
So we're not just teaching AI to be smart.
Right.
We're teaching it to be good.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that means thinking carefully about the data that we use to train them, the objectives we give them, and the feedback mechanisms that we put in place.
It's like raising a child almost.
It is. It is.
You have to nurture these AI systems
Well,
and guide them towards positive outcomes.
that's a great analogy. And just like raising a child,
Yeah.
it's an ongoing process.
Right.
You have to constantly be monitoring them,
Yeah.
adapting our approach
Mm-hmm.
as they learn and evolve, and being prepared to course correct if necessary.
It's a huge responsibility,
It is.
but also a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
We have this chance to shape the future of AI,
Mm-hmm.
to create a world where these powerful technologies are used to benefit all of humanity.
I couldn't agree more. And I think this research is a great step in that direction.
Yeah.
It's showing us that we can build AI that's not just intelligent, but also creative, adaptable, and aligned with our own values.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From the super technical details of unified reward models
Right.
to the philosophical implications of artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey.
It really has.
And I think it's a testament to the power of this research that it sparked such a fascinating conversation.
It really has. And I know I'm walking away with a whole new perspective on AI. So thank you for joining me on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in.
Yes.
We hope you've enjoyed this exploration of AI.
Mm-hmm.
Until next time, stay curious.